Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Eyal Aviv, and I'm a professor at the Department of Religion and in the honor program at the George Washington University. Today I am delighted to receive our guest, our distinguished guest speaker, Khenpo Sodargye of the Langar Buddhist Academy. It's really wonderful to see all the audience tonight, especially given the fact that we had only 2 days to announce the lecture and only 2 days to learn that Khenpo is indeed visit us in Washington, D.C. Since according to the Buddhist philosophy, as many of you know, there's nothing that can happen without help from others, Khenpo visit could not really have materialized without the help of dedicated friends from around the world. So let me just name a few. I would like to thank, first of all, GW Department of Religion and the Secret Center for Asian Studies for sponsoring the event tonight. Our guest, Khenpo Sodargye, is a writer, as you saw, a translator, a scholar, a distinguished scholar of Buddhism, and a religious leader. He's one of the closest disciples of Khenpo Jigme Phuntsok, who, as many of you know, was one of the most distinguished Buddhist teachers, especially of the Buddhist Mahayana Tibetan tradition of our time. Khenpo himself has more than 1 million students, and he's also a best-selling author who has 2 books who are on the bestseller list in China today. One of them is titled Living Through Suffering, on which the talk tonight is based, and the other one is titled Doing is Achieving. Both of them are in Chinese, and I'm really looking forward to have the English translations of these books. Khenpo also writes on a variety of more specialized topics in the fields of Buddhist studies, such as Buddhist metaphysics, Buddhist Tantra, and Buddhist logic, in which he demonstrates his mastery of the deeper teachings of Buddhism. His talk tonight, however, is on a topic that is very close to my heart, the teaching of Buddhism, teaching of happiness, and what is happiness according to Buddhism and the Tibetan culture, which is, I think, a very timely topic in our times of our uncertainty, and it's also one that has a universal appeal. Khenpo promised to introduce to us tonight the Tibetan Code of Happiness, and I'm sure that you will help me to welcome him, as we're all eager to use this code to open the gates to happiness for ourselves and to others. So Khenpo, please welcome.
Today, here in Washington, D.C., with Professor Aviv, fellow professors and students, and other scholars to explore and learn together, personally, I'm very happy. Coming to this place, on one hand, my heart feels a bit heavy, a sense of loss. Why? 20 years ago in 1993, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche also came here to this capital. Near a venue much like this one, he gave teachings and guidance, speaking on Buddhism and science. At that time, I served as his attendant and accompanied my teacher here. Later, my teacher passed away 10 years ago this year. Now, 20 years later, returning to this place, my mind keeps recalling so many of Rinpoche's teachings, his presence in every moment, walking, standing, sitting, lying down. Coming back here, many different feelings arise in my heart. First, I must say that Professor Eyal Aviv and the university have made wonderful preparations for this lecture. They suggested I speak about Tibet's secret to happiness. So today's theme is Tibet's secret to happiness, the main content of our discussion tonight. But I must admit, through just one lecture, to hand everyone the secret to happiness and bring peace and joy to your hearts, this is very difficult. However, nowadays, people of every nation, everyone, is trying to understand happiness. What paths and methods lead to finding it? Many people are researching and studying this. Since they've proposed this topic, and I personally also have this aspiration, I'm happy to learn and exchange ideas with you. Today, we'll take about 2 hours. I'll certainly take this lecture seriously. During the talk, if you have different viewpoints, please raise them directly. Although I may not be as open-minded as Americans, nevertheless, in our Tibetan Buddhist tradition, we've always had a tradition of debate. Having been trained this way, there's nothing I can't accept. You can bring up anything directly. For this lecture, I see it as an exchange between Eastern and Western thought. Though I can't represent all Eastern people, through many years of study, I do have a fairly good understanding of the Dharma. We in the East have had less exposure to new Western ideas and knowledge. Similarly, Western scholars regarding our Eastern traditions, especially Buddhist view, meditation, conduct, and teachings, though they have some understanding, they may not have had the opportunity like we have to spend years, even longer, studying the Dharma. For Western scholars, such opportunities are rare. So in my view, although we're not a huge crowd here tonight, in this intimate setting, exploring Eastern and Western thought, learning from each other about Buddhism and science, exchanging our experiences, this kind of dialogue meets the needs of the 21st century. People of the 21st century need not only new ideas to keep pace with this century, but also to understand the traditional and religious perspectives of the past. This is equally important. Otherwise, new ideas alone cannot solve all of humanity's problems. Therefore, being here together today with different Eastern and Western perspectives, Buddhist and worldly perspectives, to explore the question of happiness, I believe this is a wonderful opportunity. Today, let's study together Tibet's secret to happiness. We Tibetans, in certain ways, wherever we are, whether in China proper, the West, Europe, the inner happiness Tibetans possess has drawn much admiration and attention. Gradually, people are being influenced. Initially, their impression was one of curiosity, amazement, rarity. A people from a distant land, in their daily lives, can accept all kinds of suffering, and their hearts remain so strong. Even small sufferings, illness, romantic heartbreak, not achieving higher status, or business losses, whatever happens, we Tibetans rely on the power of the Dharma, primarily the power of Buddhist teachings, using distinctive methods to accept and transcend suffering. We have this courage and wisdom. Regarding this, though I'm also Tibetan, I'm not just praising my own people. I truly believe everyone has been touched by this. This is a fact. What's the primary reason for this? Mainly, we Tibetan people are inherently of Mahayana disposition. This is one way of putting it. But most importantly, over 2,500 years ago, the Dharma taught by Buddha Shakyamuni has remained intact in the snowy land of Tibet to this very day. So every Tibetan person, from childhood until death, takes refuge in the three jewels and studies the Dharma. Through the Dharma's blessings and power, it's become deeply rooted in each person's heart. In our daily lives, the Dharma effectively helps us face suffering. Anywhere in the world today, Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, every religion has an extraordinary influence. For example, America is predominantly Christian, with over 95% of people having religious faith. Quite rare in the world. America is a nation of faith, of law, and of freedom and equality, all primarily rooted in the power of religion. Similarly, most Tibetan people share a distinctive inner quality, the ability to face and transform suffering. The primary reason lies in Mahayana Buddhism. I've come to understand this very clearly. For us, Tibetan Buddhism can benefit people of any country or culture, especially university students. Like you students at George Washington University, you're exceptionally outstanding by American standards. You must be both intelligent and diligent. Otherwise, you couldn't be studying here. Without these qualities, at any school, especially one near the White House, admission is highly sought after. Without considerable talent and wisdom, acceptance would be impossible. In every respect, you must be exceptional. As I understand it, George Washington University has students from over 130 countries, plus students from all 50 US states, all studying here together. It's a remarkably free and open institution. At this university, researching different religions and personal religious faith are deeply valued. Without these, when you graduate and later enter administration, politics, or government work, trying to govern the world through politics alone simply won't work. There are over 7 billion people in the world. Among these 7 billion, over 1 billion have no religious affiliation, but the rest of humanity practices and acknowledges religion. That this university's faculty engage in religious research brings me great spread joy. This benefits both humanity and society. Americans, unlike people in some other places and countries, demonstrate responsibility toward global social stability in all respects. They all demonstrate a strong sense of responsibility. This is recognized by every other nation. American students' education and cultivation from childhood prepares them for the world's future, championing freedom and legal justice, becoming multifaceted leaders capable of accomplishing great things. For this, I believe what's most crucial is relying on religion's extraordinary power to better serve humanity. So all of us, whether Eastern or Western, white, black, yellow, people come in many varieties, and everyone's lifestyles differ enormously. For example, in America, wearing red might be fine, but elsewhere red symbolizes danger. In Tibet, white symbolizes auspiciousness. But in Han Chinese culture, red symbolizes good fortune, while white represents mourning. Each culture has different customs. In lifestyle and tradition, all the world's nations have many differences, but the desire for happiness and wish to avoid suffering. In this, everyone is the same. Not only people, even ants and tiny insects on the ground, indeed every living being in this world, wishes to experience joy and avoid pain. Yet they don't understand how to obtain happiness or the methods to eliminate suffering. This has become modern society's greatest problem and challenge. Yet we all seek happiness. In Buddhism, happiness is divided into temporary and ultimate. Though people may not understand this distinction, what's most important is that in life, between birth and death, we encounter all kinds of suffering. When these fall upon us, how should we face them? For everyone, studying and practicing this is vitally important. Methods to overcome suffering and create happiness. Generally, in every country, everyone has different feelings about this. A few days ago, I read a book titled, What is Happiness? It featured 155 people from around the world sharing their understanding of happiness and their efforts to achieve it. Much was discussed. Some said having abundant wealth brings happiness. Others said family health is happiness, or a loving relationship between spouses creates happiness. Some believe having status equals happiness. Others think beyond these. External material satisfaction also brings happiness. Many think this way. In our Buddhist study, do external possessions, wealth, relationships benefit happiness? Of course they're beneficial. Though beneficial, can these external things create 100% happiness for you? Not necessarily. Take America, for example. The economic level 50 years ago compared to today's economy, the current GDP has increased several times over. Yet people's happiness index has steadily declined. As humanity's external economy develops, inner happiness should also increase. For instance, I previously had no car. Now I've bought one. My happiness should increase, right? But after buying a new car, you must refuel and maintain it. And driving in the city brings various inconveniences. Many troubles arise. So for all of us, analyzing and researching suffering's root causes is extremely important. Regarding overcoming suffering and obtaining happiness, mere wishful thinking is useless. We must study it. In Buddhism, what's most important is continuous cultivation within one's own mind. What does Buddhism teach? To obtain happiness, contentment with few desires is crucial. Without contentment and few desires, as attachment grows stronger, suffering becomes unceasing. Why? An American professor once had his students do an exercise. Write down the names of the 20 people you're most attached to. A female student came forward listing relatives, husband, and so on. 20 names total. Then the professor said, now write down the 4 you're most attached to. She wrote her husband, children, and parents. Finally, the professor said, among these, write down the one you love most in this life, the person who can give you happiness. She thought, my parents will die before me, and my children have their own lives. So my husband is the one who, throughout life, can give me the most happiness. So she wrote her husband's name. He's the one who can give her happiness. The professor said, your reasoning isn't sound. Why? You believe your husband can give you lifelong happiness. You have tremendous attachment in your heart. With such attachment, you'll watch his every action like a police officer. You'll watch his every action like a police officer, leaving no freedom whatsoever. Then your so-called source of happiness won't bring you happiness. Instead, it will drive you apart even faster. This was an experiment by an American professor. From this we can understand, as Buddhism teaches, the greater anyone's attachment to money, loved ones, etc., it only brings suffering, not happiness. Everyone should understand this point. Regarding obtaining happiness, Tibetan Buddhism indeed teaches much. This isn't merely textual. Everyone should practice it. If you can do this, it will benefit your actual life. Why? Today, in any city, anywhere, people's hearts carry tremendous suffering. City dwellers may appear to drive nice cars, dress in extremely expensive clothing, and live in tall buildings. It seems people today should be happier than before, shouldn't they? In our Tibetan land, housing, food, clothing, environment, climate, comparatively speaking, aren't as good. Yet their lives, like Bhutan for instance, their happiness index ranks among the world's highest. Why? In my view, primarily it's the result of studying and practicing the Dharma. In Tibet today, places like Bhutan, Qinghai, Amdo, the Lhasa region, and other areas, for instance, my hometown, many people truly possess inner happiness. So I wonder, for people in big cities, what causes their suffering? It's driven by excessive desire. Yet in these less developed, poorer places, many are quite happy. Why? First, contentment with few desires. Most importantly, they've taken refuge in the Guru and Three Jewels since childhood, constantly praying to the Three Jewels. This is extremely beneficial for the mind. Today, not only we Buddhists acknowledge this, scientists have studied the brain and nervous system, conducted various experiments comparing people with and without faith, those who meditate versus those who don't. They've discovered that through the power of faith, happiness can indeed be brought to people's hearts. This is now widely accepted by scientists, professors and students here. Everyone experiences much suffering. Whether poor or wealthy, powerful or not, suffering exists. But when each person encounters suffering, how to face it, how to understand it, this is absolutely crucial. Nowadays, many people proclaim that life is beautiful. Actually, this lacks real meaning. The Buddha once taught everyone has the suffering of birth, aging, sickness, and death. Indeed, these sufferings everyone experiences. They can be divided into fundamental and secondary sufferings. Suffering absolutely exists in human life. Therefore, first understanding this is extremely important. When places invite me to give lectures, I accept. Why? Though personally my practice isn't very accomplished, I have deep familiarity with the Dharma, so even if it benefits them just a little, as a monastic, this is very meaningful work. Therefore, I don't fear hardship. Anywhere, regardless of audience size, whether schools or elsewhere invite me, I gladly go to exchange Dharma teachings with them, the true so-called Dharma. If everyone studies it, it can dispel suffering and bring happiness. This is the most effective method. Generally speaking, what is happiness? It's a special state of mind. Wealth, power, relationships, and so on, they're not completely unrelated to happiness, but most important is being easily satisfied, contentment with few desires. Then you can obtain happiness. In Buddhism, standards for happiness are numerous and high, but most worldly people frequently mention physical and mental well-being. Understanding happiness this way is also acceptable. In Buddhism, there's a method of meditating on emptiness. Viewing all phenomena as empty helps us overcome suffering and attain happiness. Additionally, one can practice meditative concentration, calming the mind. This is extremely important. I once read a book by the scholar Carl Jung. It probably exists in English too. This book describes his discussions with a Tibetan Rinpoche, studying together with this teacher. Jung passed away in 1961. He authentically practiced the Tibetan Book of the Dead and was the first to introduce to the West the psychology of Tibetan Buddhist tantric teachings. Among scientists, he was one of the earliest. He and this Rinpoche, the Rinpoche's name wasn't mentioned, but there are many records about this. Later, this Rinpoche explained. If we want to attain happiness, physical meditation, for example, the 7-point posture of Vairochana is very important. For speech, reciting mantras and scriptures. For mind, visualizing Buddhas and Bodhisattvas or resting the mind. This truly brings happiness to the heart. Jung said he genuinely benefited from this and found it truly beneficial for people's minds. Today, in many American schools, meditation and psychology are integrated, and many Tibetan Buddhist Rinpoches and monastics, after being tested, given meditation's proven benefits, regularly conduct such activities in many schools. Nowadays, in Han Chinese areas too, many people, through meditation, can reduce life's pressures. And for obtaining happiness, it's also tremendously helpful. So I hope everyone in the future will regularly, whether at school or in daily life, take 20 minutes, even 5 minutes in the morning to meditate. 5 minutes of meditation equals about an hour of rest. Scientists now agree with this. Therefore, through meditation, you can become peaceful and happy. In life, when anything happens, the mind often generates much agitation and suffering, sometimes even lacking courage to continue living. Today, such serious troubles abound, yet for Dharma practitioners, these rarely arise. One more point. To obtain happiness, most crucial is having an altruistic mind. Indeed, among my friends, many Dharma companions, some monastics, live solely to benefit others as their primary purpose. Therefore, when physical illness occurs or life sufferings arise, they don't regard these as suffering at all. So in the future, whether professors, students, or scholars here, if you establish life's values or worldview primarily on accomplishing benefit for others, this will lighten your own suffering. Without an altruistic mind, only caring for yourself with selfish thoughts, this only increases your suffering. If everyone can perform altruistic deeds, what Buddhism calls Mahayana bodhicitta, its merit is also extremely great. Through this, all people in our world can find happiness. Yesterday was March 20th, designated by the UN as International Day of Happiness. If Happiness Day is only one day, that's rather unreasonable. A year has 365 days. Each of us seeks happiness every single day. Everyone wants to obtain happiness. But to attain ultimate happiness, in my view, I firmly believe, what's most essential is studying and practicing the Dharma. In this way, not only can happiness be obtained, but for any suffering, it can serve as an antidote. Beyond this, do you have any questions? My lecture ends here. Thank you all.